I'm going to tell the story of how asking one little question solved a man's over year-long medical mystery. So I had a new patient who was coming to see me from out of state who was going for a second opinion. Actually, it was probably his fifth opinion, but he was a family member of one of my current patients who said, "You have to see Dr. Nance." And I asked him to tell me what's been going on, how can I help you? And he proceeded to tell me how he had this infection or something wrong with his index finger, which came out of the blue, and he's already had 3 surgeons operate on it. No luck. Still infected, still painful, and everyone is just stooped as to what's going on. And I asked him similar questions I would of all my patients who have something like this. Did you have an insect bite? Did you have an animal bite? Did you have any cuts when you were cooking your food? Any trauma to the finger? Did you get it caught in between a door? And it was no. He couldn't think of anything that had happened to him. And when I asked him what had been done for him, he said that he had had the finger operated on 3 times, but nothing grew out. No bacteria, nothing. There was no cause for this infection. And his finger got so bad, it got to the point where it was just kind of like one of those big foam fingers. He couldn't bend it, he couldn't use it. It was just absolutely useless. So I examined his finger really thoroughly. He's got a swollen finger. It's red, it's tender. It certainly still looks infected, even though he has been on every possible IV antibiotics by mouth, has had 3 washouts of the finger, and nothing is helping. I read through all the medical records that he sent. I read all the operative notes. I read about all the different medications. They have tried everything for this guy. And I am racking my brain to figure out what could be causing this infection that's not growing anything on cultures and is not responding to any of our typical antibiotics. And I told him I didn't have any answers. And so as he was getting up to leave and walk out the door, I said, "Have you gone on vacation recently?" And he said, "Well, I haven't gone anywhere since this finger problem started, but my last trip I went to the Florida Keys." And I said, "What did you do in the Florida Keys?" And he told me he went on a deep sea fishing trip with 3 of his best buddies. And I said, bingo. So I tell him, "I think I know what you have, but it's going to require another surgery." And he's looking at me like, "You have got to be kidding me. Another surgery?" So I told him I have to collect a sample with a very specific agar, which is the substance where the infection can grow, and it has to be kept at a very specific temperature in order to grow. This is something that you don't just typically get when you do a regular swab for infection. You have to specifically request it. So when I open up the finger, it does not look like a normal infection. It's gray and watery and slimy. And when I take the culture swab, I ask for the Lowenstein-Jensen culture material, and it has to be kept at 32 degrees Celsius exactly. And after a long 3 weeks of waiting, the cultures finally came back positive for Mycobacterium marinum, a very, very rare type of bacteria that is often found in people who work in marinas or with ocean wildlife. So the point of this story is that questions matter, thinking outside of the box matters, and never giving up matters.